Welcome back to It's Called Football. I'm Cap, joined by Ben. Thanks so much for joining us. I promise we will get the schedule thing figured out. Hopefully it's next week. Hopefully next week. I think 10:30 is going to be the go time on
Yes.
Tuesdays and Fridays. You can set your clock to it starting next week. Don't think about anything we've done in the past. Just tune in next week at 10:30 Eastern time on Tuesday and Friday, and we will be live. Also, apologies in advance for the voice. Little raspy, a little more raspy than normal. We will power through the show, but my apologies on
you feeling a bit low. Are you okay in yourself, or is it just
no, I feel fine. I mean, it's more annoying than anything else, but
sure.
Especially probably more annoying for those of you listening in than it is for me. But I'm glad it's just a little blip, nothing major, and grateful for good health. So
yes. How are you, man? Well, we've done that. Are you good though? Like, been busy week? Because we're Friday. It's Friday. We made it.
Yeah, good week. We were talking pre-show, made some decent trades. Whether savvy or luck, I'll take either one when they're good ones. And seems to be activity picking up a bit. So I'm excited because we did have the Hall of Fame game last night. So the first NFL preseason game kicked off. We've got a
great game too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I ended up not watching. I don't really pay too much attention to preseason. I'll look at the player blurbs and you get a better idea of depth charts and who might be some sleepers that are popping up. And then I'll watch every game throughout the NFL season, or the regular season. Last night's game was pretty good. The one player that probably stood out was Carson Beck, who is, rookie. They drafted him. Not really. I don't think really thinking he would be the franchise quarterback, rather bridging this year to next year. And next year's draft class is loaded with stars at many positions, but in particular the quarterback position. So the Cardinals are one team that many are thinking will tank this year and just not really try to win games. I mean, even if they tried, they have probably the toughest schedule in all the league this year. They play in a very tough division. And by many counts, their schedule is the hardest of anyone. And they're, for not being a good team, like I think they're underdogs. They might be underdogs in every single game they play.
Right.
And so Jacoby Brissett is kind of like a journeyman quarterback who did well last year on a bunch of volume for the Cards. He most likely will start the year as the quarterback, but there's been some rumblings that Beck might be in play towards the end of the season to see if they do have anything there before they presumably draft another quarterback next year. And so when you talk about fantasy in the NFL fantasy sports, whether it's redraft, where you're drafting a new team this year and you're managing the team throughout every week of the season, picking your starters and making trades and stuff, or best ball, where there's no management in the season, you just draft your team, and then every week the computer puts the players that scored the most points at each position in your starting lineup. Either format, the most important games are weeks 15, 16, and 17. The NFL is an 18-week regular season. And even though it's 18 weeks, almost every fantasy league, they have their championship in week 17, because week 18, often when it happens, will be like the best teams in the league are resting their players for the playoffs. They've already won the division. They've already got a bye. So we're not going to roll out our starters, or maybe we only play in the first quarter and we take them off. So because of that, most fantasy leagues end in week 17. Week 15 is usually the first round of the playoffs, week 16, the second round of the playoffs, and then the final is usually week 17. And I share that because while the Cardinals aren't a good team, they do have some desirable skill players. Their tight end, Trey McBride, was the top tight end in the league last year. They just spent the number 3 overall draft pick on a running back, which is really early for a running back, while also signing a relatively big free agent at running back in the offseason. And then they have 2 wide receivers who Marvin Harrison was a first round draft pick a couple years ago. And Michael Wilson had a coming out party last year. So they have some weapons at offense, but they don't really have a great quarterback.
Right.
And so their weapons are getting drafted in any fantasy format. People are taking Jeremiah Love as early as the second or third round. Same thing with Trey McBride, second or third round. And then Wilson and Harrison are also going off early. However, and it's not as important in redraft because you can make trades, or you could, if you draft or you decide to start Jacoby Brissett, and then in week 14 they bench Brissett and bring in Carson Beck for the stretch run, you could pick Beck up off waivers and you'd be fine. In best ball, though, the unknown of like you're trying to stack your quarterback with your wide receiver or your elite tight end,
yeah,
and it may not be the guy who starts the year, so it's added this layer of game theory, of strategy. Like, if, for instance, you might be drafting a best ball lineup and you've got Trey McBride as your tight end and Marvin Harrison or Michael Wilson as one of your wide receivers. Naturally, most people are going to stack the quarterback, the starting quarterback there. But in a different approach to best ball would be, don't draft the starting quarterback, draft the backup quarterback to stack with your wide receivers, because he's going to be, now you obviously you need 2 or 3 quarterbacks on your squad, so you have someone that is actually a starter for the first half of the year that is going to be starting. And then someone like Beck ends up coming in and playing during the fantasy playoffs, could give you a pretty big edge, because Carson Beck, because he's a backup, is not getting drafted and not even remotely close to every best ball draft.
Right.
So whereas like Josh Allen, the top quarterback drafted, and rightfully so, he may be the best fantasy quarterback of all time. He, he might be 30% owned in your week 17 matchup, maybe more. Whereas Carson Beck, you might be the only one in your pod that has him in week 16. In the finals, week 17, there might be 20, 30% Josh Allen. You, again, could be the only person with a Carson Beck lineup. So some extra, and so I say all that, probably more likely to happen now that he had a good showing last night. And even though it's against the backups for the Panthers, he looked good. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway is Beck looks like that he most likely, to the point, like, he looked good enough. It would be shocking not to see him start some games this year.
Right.
Even if Brissett doesn't get injured, I think they'll give him some run to see what they've got. But
as I said at the end of last show, like, we've spent a lot of time talking about European football off the back of the World Cup, and I think we've still got some of that to cover. There's some really interesting things going on at the moment. Needless to say, like, the big one that you tagged me on yesterday was Vinicius Junior re-signing for Real Madrid, a 6-year contract taking him up to 2032-33 season. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but I do want to get into NFL a little bit because I feel like we've neglected it. And the whole point of our show was I get to kind of, like, help you with your discovery of European football based on your enjoyment of the World Cup. And at the same time, I get to learn from you about what's going on in NFL, because I've always wanted to be a fan, and I've always sat and watched it and enjoyed it for what it is, but kind of not really understood what's going on more broadly. I have in front of me, and don't worry, we're not going to get to them all today, but I'm just going to keep it for a while, like 110 GPT generated questions based on me. I spoke to my agent yesterday for about 10 minutes about, like, all of the things I wanted to understand, how I was going to select my own team, how the draft works, how the NFL is structured, like the different divisions within the different, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm like, I've no idea why any of this is the way it is, let alone offensive and defensive position strategies, getting into the game, etc. So I have got loads of questions for you, which we'll get through in the coming weeks. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I think we've got a lot we can cover. I also yesterday, so I'm a Newcastle United fan. By the way, interesting thing you might want to bring up on screen. If you go to, there's a good X account called Toon Polls, like POLLS. And they are showcasing, so all members of the Newcastle United Supporters Club have today received 3 logo badges that they can choose from, because Newcastle are going to adjust the badge, the crest on the shirt.
Wow.
They've done that a few times in the past, but the crest that we have right now has been there since, I think, the 80s. And they've just said, with, like, modern design of shirts, with, like, media, use of a logo on, like, websites, socials, all of that kind of stuff. The current logo is very intricate. And so they've given, and so option 3 is getting the nod at the moment. But they are the three. So basically, they came up with a whole bunch of ideas beforehand, and the Newcastle United fans revolted and were like, "No." So then they were like, "Okay, how's that going to work?" And so they went into consultation with the fans. Fans were like, "Must keep the castle, must keep the black and white shield, must keep the seahorses, must keep the blue ribbon." It was like, well, fucking hell, you're not giving us much to work with.
So like, is this part of the, like, I'm looking here, like, I don't like,
there are differences. So if you look,
there are differences. Okay.
Yeah, like look at the seahorse's face, particularly. That's,
Okay.
that's where a lot of it is. Look at some of the shading.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I went with option 3 that I like. Yeah, option 3 is the one that people are going for. So if you click option 3, you'll see the thing.
Oh yeah.
So it's winning quite considerably. But it's all a nonsense. And you know, anyway, this is not a Newcastle United stream as much as you'd. Oh yeah. So this is what that. So and people are now having fun with it because
what is the I understand polls, but what does tune come from? Where is that?
So it's so Newcastle United's ground is based in the city centre, so in town. In the UK, if you're going to go to the shops or you're going to go, like, you go to town, that's like what we say. I don't know if that works in America, if that's the same thing, but like as a kid, if you were going to go out with your parents you go to town to go buy clothes, or you'd go to town to go to the record shop or whatever. Like, fucking hell, I've just aged myself there very much. Anyway, and Newcastle's accent would say toon.
Gotcha.
Instead of town, and so
Gotcha.
because their stadium is based in town,
okay,
in the Toon, then they become the Toon Army, and so that's where that comes from.
So even though minor changes, or they don't want to see a ton of like, I gotta imagine, like, this is a big deal for
fucking massive.
Like that. This is, you know, for the lore and the history that exists with these EPL teams. Like, this is a kind of a major deal, no?
There's a big thing around the Newcastle United badge as well, because there were 2 teams in Newcastle originally. One played in black and white, one played in red and white. This is going back. I did the stadium tour a while back, so I got all of this information firsthand. And one played in red and white, one played. So basically, they got convinced to come together. And at the point they came together, they initially used the badge of the city. So like there's a crest, a coat of arms for Newcastle upon Tyne as a place, and then something happened where I think they like fell out with the local council, or the local council tried to charge them for use of it or something, and so they said, well, fuck you then, we'll make our own. And I think they went through several iterations of badge, and then they landed on this one that they've landed on for the last 30-40 years. And to my mind as well, if you look at like a lot of badges in the Premier League, like I'm very biased, of course I am, but the Newcastle United badge is lovely and it's instantly recognizable and all of those things. I think it's one of few that hasn't been changed quite recently as well in like Premier League era. So Arsenal, I always used to like their badge, but they've changed it more recently. They've updated it. Manchester United still haven't updated theirs, which is lovely. One of the teams coming into the Premier League this season is Coventry City. Now, they haven't been in the Premier League for a long time. They got relegated, I would say, in the noughties. I can't remember when, and they're coming back up. They've got the most intricate, amazing badge for a football team. I love their logo. I'd be gutted if they ever changed theirs. But yeah, for clubs, it's a big deal. There are a lot of Newcastle fans that would rather turn around to the hierarchy at St James's Park and say, "Don't change it at all. Just don't do it. Like we're fine." But they've decided they need to change it, and at least they're being sympathetic to the current design. And there you go. There's Coventry. So Elephant and Castle, the football, the Griffin. I don't know if that's a phoenix on the other side. I assume it is because of the red. The ribbons look great. It's amazing, isn't it? That's such a cool badge, I think.
Well, and when you say like any of these changes, and it's probably different with clubs, but one of the things that, as I understand it, these EPL clubs or most of these European clubs they actually are member owned, right? Like when you go buy tickets, you have to become a member. You've got a KYC, and and then you actually get some sort of stake in the team or something along. Is that like I know, but I don't know. But what's
so not in every instance. In Germany, I think we covered this before. 51% of every club is owned by fans.
Okay, so it is in Germany. Got it.
In Germany, that's a done deal. Like there's a vote on all decisions, etc. Other ones not so much. So like Newcastle United is outright owned by a syndicate that's made up of like Jamie Rubin, the PIF, which is the Public Investment Fund from Saudi Arabia, and a few other people. And so
but they own it. No, there's no fan or member ownership.
There's no fan member ownership, but in order to be able to be a season ticket holder, you need to belong to the kind of like fan base of the club. And in order to, so they do like certain things as well. They've glorified it up a little bit more now, made it worth doing it a bit more. So they'll bring out like a range of merch every year that isn't just the shirt. So it's like a t-shirt, a hoodie, or a sweatshirt, or whatever. Like I got one last year. It's so lovely because it was like the 1996. They basically replicate. It was top. Anyway, the people who are like part membership, they get the first dibs on all of that stuff, and usually it sells out. But it doesn't. They might make a little bit more, makes it into the shops, but then it's gone. Like it's like hen's teeth. It's just impossible. Like so. So there's a few things that go along that. But the other thing they do is typically the club needs to have a like a forum with players. No, sorry, with the fans, where they get to talk to them about what's going on. Maybe they get to like appoint a council who can be like the mouthpiece for the fans, etc. And so yeah, most clubs do that. And in this instance, what they're saying is we appreciate the fans want to have a say in this, so we're going to come up with some options. I mean, they've pretty much decided what they want the badge to be, right? They've just said like there are some nuances that you can choose between yourselves. And if you're a member of that, you're getting an email today. You get to go onto a portal, vote for the one that you want, and then that will become the new crest going forward.
Regarding all the team branding and in particular kits, I mean I've seen football kits. I'm familiar with it. I know the big deal. I'm also familiar with like the scarves.
Yep.
I wasn't aware until recently, until I got into football Twitter and seeing all this stuff. Like it gave me the impression that not only they have multiple kits, home, away, an alternate, a third kit, a fourth, like that's not entirely uncommon in like NFL football.
Yeah.
But is every year all their kits are new for do they basically make small tweaks and designs on every, like, because like with football, you might have their home and away jerseys for some teams for NFL football have been the same for the last 20 years. And then they'll have like a third colorway that might be a special one-off that's more of a unique design, but they definitely don't change every jersey home and away every year. Is that the case with EPL, or are these like
it never used
all
to be
new kits?
Yeah, you used to be able to. When I say used to, I'm talking about when I was a kid. So fucking 30 years ago, you could maybe run 2 seasons on a shirt. But the way typically it works is that your home shirt is the same in terms of like colors.
Okay.
Each year, but there'll be a variation on it. Newcastle United's home kit this season is vile compared to last season, for example.
So since you said that, I wasn't even going to go there because I pulled up an article and it ranked the kits that had been introduced, and their home kit was dead last. It was their away kit got some love.
It's beautiful. I've got
the home kit. Yeah, the home kit is
there.
Is 40.
So they basically, I mean, and that picture there is even more insulting because Bruno on the right is gone, and Jacob Murphy on the left is fucking useless. So it's absolutely awful. There are some beauties in there though this season. Fulham, their away kit that they've just released is absolutely sensational. I don't know if it will be shown on there yet. It's like red and black. It looks like more like a cycling jersey. It's so nice.
Here's the away.
There's kit. The away kit. So I've got that one, and I bought it sponsorless as well because they released it before the sponsor had been confirmed, which is nice. You never get to do that.
Again, it's this something that it seems so obvious, and I get it, but even like talking through it, it's surprising to me. Not that they do this. It's surprising to me that all American sports, because I think of like yeah, they're very opportunistic, capitalistic leagues.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that they don't do this because it's going to lead to more merch sales.
Yeah, it's a really big thing in the build up to the new season. So
Uh-huh.
like I said, home kit's always the same colors. You know, Manchester United are red, Sunderland, oh, that's Brentford. That's the Fulham away kit. That's a beautiful top, I think. With the Adidas trefoil old school logo rather than the modern Adidas logo. Which is there on that Arsenal
Yeah, I like
shirt.
that. I didn't even notice it, but until you said it. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's really nice. And Adidas have done that a bit. They did it in the World Cup as well. I don't know if you remember. So like the Ecuador away kit was absolutely. Was it Ecuador? No, it wasn't Ecuador. Come on, Ben. Who was the? It was Curacao. Their away kit was absolutely sensational, and it had that. As much as I'm loath to say it, that one, if you go up again, that Sunderland kit, Sunderland and Newcastle United's like mortal enemies, but that is that is a beautiful jersey with the red and white striped collar that you can flick up. There was a player in the 90s called Eric Cantona. If you're talking about like history and lore in the Premier League, one of the greatest players to play in the Premier League, French guy. He was found guilty for like karate kicking a fan and he got sent off for it. It was horrendous. He had a long ban for that. He was French and he used to always wear his collars up on it. It was a very cool thing. So like as a kid, I always wore my collars up on football shirts if they had a collar.
Remind me, who was the one? Was it Zidane? Who was the one that did long sleeves?
Yeah, Zidane always wore long sleeves. Yeah, I sent that to you, right? When after we had that show, that was that one there. That's the Sunderland away shirt because Sunderland have just collaborated with the Elvis Presley estate, and so that shirt is designed to be like the pink and black Elvis.
Yeah, that's fun. Like it's fun. I mean, it creates another event in the off season. It's something that gives your fans something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And how they're doing it. It's not like here's our kits. It's like here's the home kit, here's the away kit, here's the third alternate kit. Like it gives them something to talk about. It keeps the fans engaged. And then
definitely
some might get upset. Oh, I got to buy the new kit, but I'm sure they still wear the old ones. And it gives for your deepest fans, they're probably buying a new kit every year. Whereas if it was the same, they probably wouldn't.
Totally. I went to the Newcastle match a week ago on Wednesday, the one in Bristol before Eddie Howe resigned. And I think there were equal numbers of people either wearing the brand new away kit, which had come out the week before, or wearing the one behind me, which is like the 1996-97 kit, which is, I think, often considered probably the number one kit of the Premier League era, to be honest. It's like with its sponsor was Newcastle Brown Ale, which is a beer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like to have Newcastle United sponsored by Newcastle Brown Ale with that lovely logo in the middle of it, and some iconic players that played for Newcastle at the time. It's that one behind me as well is signed by the whole squad from that time. But yes, home kit stays the same. Away kit always different. But sometimes with away kits, sometimes they kind of like they fall back to like away colours. Not as often. Newcastle's away colours always used to be yellow and green, and it was like every season it was just a variation on the yellow and green, just like it's a variation on the black and white. They've kind of done away with that, and now they've got a third strip which they occasionally need to wear. Which in my work, I think they've all got together and said, let's just fucking make it so that we feel like we need to have a third strip.
Right.
And it's a bit of a nonsense. They've had a couple of nice ones out there in recent years, but it's £85 for a shirt if you buy the regular one. If you buy the pro worn one, so there's a difference in quality between like a replica and the shirt that they would give to the players to wear. That's £125 to buy. And you think, fucking hell, like times 3, you could end up spending £400 on football shirts.
Wow.
And if you've got kids and stuff, like wild.
So not just is it a revenue driver for the clubs on the retail sales of these shirts, and it varies by team, but the sponsorship, the shirt sponsorship, the kit sponsorships. Mm-hmm. If Google's right here,
hugely
United's about 170 million in total. City's 150 million. Arsenal 125 million. Liverpool 137 million.
Yep.
just bananas.
It's a lot of money in those things. So yeah. Yeah, so anyway, but the reason we went on to football, I'm just trying to bring us back round. I was in my long chat to ChatGPT and my AI agent talking about the kind of where I'm at with NFL so I could formulate a whole bunch of questions to ask you. What did I do? I also said, like, I'm a Newcastle United fan. The reason I love Newcastle United is, and I gave like a whole bunch, like, big city, that huge fan base, like that is deadly passionate. Aspirations to win, but perhaps hasn't, not a great history. Certainly not a great recent history of being able to win. Loves flamboyant football, all of those things. I listed them, and I was like, plus I need to choose a team that's on the Eastern Seaboard because I want to be able to watch those 1 p.m. games because they're 6 p.m. UK time, and that's going to be convenient. And I don't want to be a glory hunter, but I would like a team that's going to compete. There we are. And it gave me some options, and so I was gonna read out my options.
Let's hear it. Yeah, I'm really curious what ChatGPT suggested with that criteria.
Okay, cool. Right. So my options are, and I'll give you like a little bit of context around each of them, but I'm not going to monologue for too long. So, Buffalo Bills. So they said the Bills are the closest NFL equivalent to Newcastle United you're likely to find. It's a relatively small but intensely regional sporting city.
Yep.
Team is closely tied to the identity of Western New York. Supporters are famously committed. Franchise carries decades of near misses and disappointment without ever winning the Super Bowl.
Yep.
The franchise, they are now considered like a genuine contender, led by Josh Allen.
Yep.
But supporting them would not feel like simply choosing the NFL's most successful club. One current training camp actually ranking places, Buffalo second in the league currently, which I thought was interesting. They also play EST, typical 1 p.m. kickoffs. The first 4 weeks of the season include 3 1 p.m. Sunday games, which is great. But they are a prominent team, which means they will have some overnight primetime fixtures. So that's one.
So if I can interject there, if you want my feedback now, or you may wait till they're all done.
Wait to the end.
Okay.
Wait to the end. Right. I won't give them.
I think it's off to a great start. I got some additional thoughts on Bills, but okay. Yeah, I want to hear the rest first.
Okay. Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia, arguably the closest match for intensity, humor, hostility, and loyalty of Newcastle United supporters. Eagles are deeply connected to the personality of the city. Philadelphia is a much bigger multi-sport market. They are currently ranked among the NFL's leading teams and will play Jacksonville at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on the 11th of October, which I could go to. That was I was drawn a little bit towards that. Anyway, right, next one is Baltimore Ravens. Ravens would be an excellent team through which to learn the sport. They have a distinctive playing identity. Lamar Jackson is one of the league's most unusual quarterbacks, and they tend to be strategically interesting on both sides of the ball. They are 8th in one current power ranking, and their 26th schedule contains a healthy number of 1 p.m. Eastern Seaboard kickoffs. Downside, relatively young franchise with 2 Super Bowl victories, so they do not carry the same long-suffering history as Newcastle United. I felt like kicking my agent. All right, then rub it in. Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh, working class, industrial, hard-edged sporting identity, probably resembles Newcastle more than any other NFL city. The Steelers have an extraordinarily loyal national fan base and a traditional family-run feel. However, they have 6 Super Bowl titles, and whilst they are currently in a transitional period, it might feel a bit like jumping on board with a team that's kind of won it loads and that kind of stuff. But they do play in Paris in October. I'm not going to go to Paris, so that's out. And then 5th is, and that's the last one, Washington Commanders. The rebuilding, it says the rebuilding choice. Washington emerged from a deeply unpopular ownership period in
Hmm.
23. It's been attempted to reconnect the franchise with its supporters. The ownership reset provides an obvious Newcastle parallel because Newcastle were acquired 5 years ago. They unexpectedly reached the NFC Championship game in 24, then fell to 5-12 in 25. They therefore enter 26 as a genuine rebuilding story rather than a safe choice. They will play Indianapolis at Tottenham on the 4th of October. So, and it says, my final order for you is Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, Washington Commanders, and the one that I didn't speak about was the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
There you go. Give me your thoughts.
So, I mean, I think it did pretty good at identifying some viable options and giving you like the breakdown as to why.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably, and I think all would be relatively fun. The exception, the one I would bump to the bottom of the list, in my opinion, would be the Steelers. I know I'm probably they do have a very loyal fan base, so I'm probably upsetting anyone listening in.
Yeah,
that's a Steelers fan.
Yeah,
and they have one of those fan bases that seems to go broader than just Western Pennsylvania. Like they have there's probably a Steelers bar in Tampa, St. Pete, like in Florida where I'm at. There's probably a bar in the area where people go to every Sunday and watch Steelers games.
Yeah.
So they do have that wide fan base. It's very blue collar city. Hard workers. They're known for all that. Like they like that. They've been like the definition of mediocrity over, even though they do have 6 Super Bowl titles, which is, tied for the most ever, or second most ever. They haven't won any for several years. Actually, I went to a Super Bowl I can't remember the number of the Super Bowl. It was in 2011, and it was actually Green Bay played Pittsburgh. Green Bay won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, so they haven't won a Super Bowl for many years, even though they've won championships. They're the team that like every year they'll go like 9-8 and make the playoffs and then lose in the first round of the playoffs. Has been kind of like the running bit. So they're good enough to be competitive, make the playoffs, but never really have a serious chance. And then because they're mediocre, they're not getting how NFL works. If you finish with the worst record in the league, I was saying the Cardinals might tank. The worst record in the league gets the first pick in the upcoming college draft, like gets presumably the best player coming into the league from college. And they've just been basically, they've been stuck in mediocrity. So they talks about like the Commanders as a rebuilding program. They got their quarterback Jaden Daniels early in the draft a couple of years ago. He became a early superstar. He was injured last year. Long story short, Pittsburgh's probably like the least fun.
Mm-hmm.
Their style of play. Their quarterback also is Aaron Rodgers, who was coincidentally the quarterback of that Green Bay team when I saw him in the Super Bowl. He's like 42 years old. He's most likely going to retire after this year. And he's also a jerk. Like he's one celebrity athlete. The only person I've met in my life that I left the conversation like, wow, that person is actually a bigger jerk than they make out to be on TV and in the media. Like he's a real jerk. I've never had an interaction with anyone. It's stuck in my brain as like a core memory for him being such a jerk. Anyways, so I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. He's going to retire. Because he's so old, he's playing very different than like when he was in his prime. It's probably like the least fun style of play. And if they have a bad year and they end up getting one of these good quarterbacks next year, they might have their franchise quarterback next year. But it's also likely that they go through some down years without a quarterback. Quarterback's just such an important position in the league for many reasons.
Yeah.
But whereas all those other teams that were in consideration, they all have a young to in their prime quarterback who's like a superstar.
Okay.
Josh Allen, as I said, he's maybe the best fantasy quarterback ever. He's been on I think the last 7 years, he's finished as the top scoring fantasy quarterback or second. So he's been 1 or 2 each of the last 7 years. Part of it is because he runs a lot. Mm-hmm. So not only is he good at throwing the ball and puts up good passing numbers, he'll also score like 10 to 15 rushing touchdowns a year because he's super athletic.
Yeah. And Josh Allen was at which team?
The Bills.
The Bills, yeah.
And the Bills are kind of Pittsburgh-esque in terms of the market and the city. It's a smaller market, very blue collar, hardworking, and the Bills fans have a lot of fun. Like you go to a Bills fan, if you've ever seen the clips where these fans are like jumping off of the top of a truck or a van and they crash through a folding table, crash through a table.
Yeah.
The Bills fans, that's like their tailgating thing is they'll jump in and break these tables. It's just like really rowdy fan base.
Love it.
Very passionate, and one that while Josh Allen's been the best quarterback in the league for the last 7 years, he's like the first quarterback that gets drafted in all the fantasy leagues because, again, he puts up a lot of points. They haven't won a Super Bowl, haven't even been to a Super Bowl for a while. Back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, the Bills made history because they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row and lost all 4 of them.
Oh, wow.
So they've had a lot of heartbreak, yet to win a championship, but yet one of the most talented teams, one of the deepest rosters. You got a superstar quarterback and one that's like Josh Allen's due now. I think he's turning 30, and it's like his window is like,
he needs to get
great,
on and do
but
it.
if he never wins the Super Bowl, he's not going to be counted as the greatest of all, one of the greatest of all time. So the Bills, I would definitely keep up there. The Eagles, they've won pretty recently. They won, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, won the Super Bowl. They're a fun team. Fan base is similar to Buffalo. We're really like, actually, Philadelphia is probably notorious for having like the worst fans in the league, being very mean to other opposing teams, and like they take their Philadelphia Eagle fandom seriously. But very talented, probably the best GM in the league. They're a really, really well-run organization.
Okay.
They do well in the draft every year. They make good trades. And just a really they build where some teams like have to like tear it down and rebuild. They just reload. Like they do a great job of like trading players or moving on from players like when they're nearing their decline before they fall off the map though, and good at like getting assets back in return. They do really good in the draft. The Eagles are an interesting one. The Eagles, the Commanders, not as deep of a roster as the Bills or the Eagles, but their quarterback Jaden Daniels is in the same range like of Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts is the Eagles quarterback. Daniels, most people would have Daniels actually better than
Commanders changed name, right? So they were
used to be the Redskins.
Yeah, okay, and that was obviously for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
They went from the Redskins for a year or two. They were the football club, the Washington Football Club.
Oh yeah.
Some people thought they should have just stayed there, kept it, like paid homage to our international football friends.
Yeah.
But they decided to go to the Commanders. But they are. It's also based in DC, and their owner was not a good person. Their prior owner, the new one, then they went through the ownership change. The other
Ravens.
The Ravens also, same thing with Lamar. Like, so really between Lamar Jackson, the Ravens quarterback, Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback, Jalen Hurts, the Eagles quarterback, Jaden Daniels, the Commanders quarterback, 4 of the most exciting quarterbacks in the league. If you're doing a best ball draft or any fantasy draft, Josh Allen's going to be the first quarterback to get drafted. Lamar Jackson's going to be the second quarterback to get drafted.
Yeah.
Those 2 are like not most likely to win MVP. They're good teams. They're going to win a lot of games. They put up a lot of numbers throwing the ball, good passing stats, and they also both could likely run for 10 to 15 touchdowns. Extremely athletic.
Got you.
And exciting teams to watch.
I'm leaning towards the Bills.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I feel like I kind of should go for that. Like I should lean if there's something is pulling me one way, I feel like I should like listen to it rather than force something.
So I think one thing with the Bills, like you couldn't be called a bandwagon fan because they haven't won a Super Bowl ever, right? But yet they're close. They're exciting, and while they might be favorites to do well, until they win one, they're never going to be the favorite. Like they're just so it's like it's a team that's good, very competitive, very well could win Super Bowl this year, but since they haven't, and because they've had so much heartbreak, the fact that they went to 4 in a row and lost all 4 of them, they're notorious for like wide left was a thing in Buffalo still to this day. Like a kicker missed a field goal, it went wide left that would have won. This is one of those Super Bowls. They've just had a lot of heartbreak. They've also lost to the Kansas City Chiefs many times in the in their conference final. So basically the AFC competes on one side of the bracket. The winner then of the AFC goes into the Super Bowl. The NFC's on the other side of the bracket. All those teams except Philadelphia are in the AFC. And the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, that's the one team that, even though they didn't win last year, you would be considered a bandwagon fan if you became a Chiefs fan, because they've been pretty dominant. They've had kind of a dynasty.
It would be like 10 years ago being a Patriots fan.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. When
even though last year was a down year for them and Mahomes got injured, right now it's like he's largely considered the best quarterback in the league. From a fantasy standpoint, he doesn't run as much as Allen or Lamar Jackson. Yeah. But from if you had to pick one quarterback to go win a game, most people are going to say Patrick Mahomes.
Got you.
And they beat Josh Allen and the Bills, I think maybe 3 times. They've knocked him out of the playoffs. And so it's this.
What am I doing? I'm already upset. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Bills.
Bills is a good choice, I think. And it would be, if you ever make it to a game, would be, I'm sure, I mean, it's cold in Buffalo, but I'm sure it'd be outside of the weather, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they don't play in Europe this year. Is that right?
That's right. They don't, which is a bummer, but then it's a bit short notice. I might go to Wembley or to Tottenham anyway.
I was looking at.
I've got a friend that really enjoys NFL as well, and he's said, like, do you fancy just getting a ticket? And they have not been able to sell out the game.
That's what I was going to. I was going to ask. Did the game sell out or no?
It used to be that they did one game at Wembley Stadium, and that would sell out way in advance, and then like touts and all kinds of stuff. It would be a nightmare to try and get tickets. As it happens, they've now got games happening in France, in Germany. I think they've got like 4 happening in the UK, and I think it's spread it a little
thin,
too thin. And so this year they haven't been able to sell those games out. So like I know I could go now and go buy a Philadelphia Eagles ticket. Yeah,
it is. It's up to 6 games this year in Europe. 6. I think it's the most they've ever had.
Yeah, I think it's too much. Genuinely, I think it's too much. And
they're trying to tap into other markets. They got one in Madrid, Spain, one in Germany, you mentioned, one in Paris. But yeah, that's you mentioned the Jaguars earlier. They play 2 games back-to-back weeks. They play at Tottenham on week 5, and then they play at Wembley in week 6. Yeah. They've been like I think since we started doing NFL games in Europe, I think the Jags maybe have played every year. They've been like the international team.
Right.
And for a while, it was a big focus. And I think the owner might have a stake in one of the EPL teams, maybe.
That might make sense. Last year, it was the Bears. I seem to remember is it Chicago Bears? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, they were playing in the UK in one of the games. I'm pretty certain of that because I went out one day and I saw fucking loads of people wearing the they blue and orange. In my head it says they're blue and orange.
So Saad Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, he also owns Fulham.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That'll be it then. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, he bought it in 2013.
Okay.
How are they?
Fulham.
Mm-hmm. Competitive, middle of the pack.
I think potential to get relegated this season.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think they're going to struggle, and a lot of people might disagree with me, but they haven't signed anyone, and they've been bled dry, and there's nothing exciting going on at Fulham. Oh, Broncos are blue and orange. Thank you, Mike. So yeah, if you told me you were looking to support a team, I would not be recommending that you. Whilst it's a lovely club, and it's got a really their ground is called Craven Cottage.
Okay.
And in the corner of their ground, there is an old, like a little house that is like the old cottage, which I can't remember why it's there or who owned it. If it was like the groundskeeper or something like that, but it's like it's really quaint that this little cottage is like, well, it's not that little. It's like I think it's now become like a VIP kind of area or something for the club. But it's a cool ground. The guy that used to own Harrods, Al Fayed, I don't know if Mohammed Al Fayed, he was a businessman. He was the guy that founded Harrods department store in London. He was the guy that owned Fulham for a long time. But he's obviously died now. His son was the fellow that was in the car with Princess Diana when she died. In
Oh, wow.
1997. Yeah, her new boyfriend, an Egyptian dude.
Wow.
Dodi Al Fayed, that was his name. Here we are. That's a history lesson, isn't it? And so, but yeah, it's interesting. Oh, cool. You've got Predictfully up.
Yeah, I wanted to see of your picks. The Bills are the most, now, depends on where you look at it. Like I just peeked at Cauchy. They're 8% over there. The Rams are the favorites at 16%. But most places going to be these same groups of the Rams, the Bills, the Seahawks, the Ravens.
It's interesting. We haven't pushed these new markets yet, and because we've got relatively low user base at the moment, like it's not indicative of what's going on. So there's quite a lot. Like anyone who comes over to Predictfully early and starts playing around with this, there's a whole host of points to be made because most of the audience on there are football fans, like European football fans.
Makes sense.
And so yeah, but we're really keen to get lots of people logged in this year from a from an NFL perspective, building out some small games for it and stuff like that as well.
I think the more I think about it, I think I think Bills would be a great choice. I think they're one that, like, the Rams would be the other, like the Chiefs, that you might be accused of being a bandwagon fan because they're, by most sources, the favorites this year. They've got a loaded roster now. Their quarterback is,
but they're Western, old. They're LA, right?
Yep. Yeah, beautiful stadium, beautiful new stadium at SoFi.
Really? That was a World Cup stadium, wasn't
exactly.
It? Yeah,
it's where they should have had the World Cup finals, in my opinion. Like MetLife, where they had the finals, is kind of a decrepit stadium.
Yeah.
And anyways, I get New York City, it made sense, but the Rams are incredible offense. They got maybe one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the league. They've actually got their second wide receiver, Devontae Adams, is really good. And defensively, they traded the Browns to get Myles Garrett, who's the best defensive player in the league. He won. He's a defensive end that's just like a freak, a monster.
Yeah.
He set the NFL sack record last year. And then to make matters worse or better for Rams fans, there is rumors that seem to have a lot of merit to it that Aaron Donald, who has been over the last 10 years, if you ask people who's the most dominant players in the NFL, especially defensively, it would be Myles Garrett. And before him, it was Aaron Donald.
Right.
Aaron Donald had, like, in the last 30 years, I think there's been 3 players that have had more than 22 sacks in a season. Last year, Myles Garrett broke the record. Before that, it was Aaron Donald, who had like 22 or 23 as a defensive tackle a few years ago. Yeah. He had retired, but he's rumors he's coming out of retirement to come back and play another year with Myles Garrett.
Right.
And it would, like, no exaggeration, would be the most dangerous, the scariest defensive line ever assembled.
So when they say sacks, like, you define what a sack is in defensive terms.
So it's when the quarterback gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So they'll take the snap and they roll back to pass.
Yeah.
And the defender tackles them behind the line of scrimmage.
Okay, right. And but it has to be on the quarterback. That's what makes it.
Yep, exactly. Yep. If it's a running back or someone else behind the line, it's called a tackle for loss.
Yeah.
But a sack is specifically tackling the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage.
And they're always the most kind of like dramatic, aren't they? Like the quarterback's running backwards, looking for the pass. Where is it going to happen? And then bang, someone comes in on the side or whatever.
Yeah, there could be like turnovers. Like a defense could intercept a ball, pick off a pass that's intended for a wide receiver, or cause a fumble and recover it. And that's going to be a major play for the defense. They're going to celebrate anytime they get a turnover.
Sure.
Sacks, if you're going to see a defensive player like dance, it's going to be after, most often after a sack. It's a big event play.
I can't wait. I am as excited for NFL this season as I am for Premier League, and that's the first time that's happened to me. And that's because 2 reasons. One is I've now got a bit of skin in the game with Predictfully, so I've got like a community that is building around this prediction market platform that we're building, and so they're all into it and excited. And the second one is because last year I watched maybe 10 games, and so as a result of that, I feel just a little closer to what's going on. So the fact that you and I are doing this and we get to talk about it every week, I know I'm going to love it alongside being able to talk to you about what's going on in the Premier League. I think it's just going to be top.
Yeah, I am. I'm glad you're excited. It's exciting for me to experience, I don't know if vicariously is the right word here,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it is. It is
through
because
through
I feel
your
the same.
journey.
I feel the same for you in football and European football.
Um,
Who's your team though in NFL?
so I it's the 49ers, like, but I'm not a 49ers fan like you're a Newcastle fan. I'm a huge fan of the sport, but
Right.
and I say Niners, I grew up a 49ers fan, but it's
Okay.
not like if the 49ers lose or have a bad year, I'm not losing any sleep. Like I'd like to
Okay.
see them win and do well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the 49ers running joke right now is their practice facility is they've had a lot of injuries. And then it comes out their practice facility is located right next to an electrical substation. Have you seen any of this? Have you heard anything about
No.
this at all?
No.
So in American football Twitter, it has been like the running joke of it started last year. People started like breaking it down in threads. You'd have some doctors and some engineers weigh in. And then this like so far, like they have 20 players already injured on their team just in training camp. And so
That seems bizarre.
and so they're saying like, oh, part of it's this electrical substation. This is the issue. So much so that a brand new account has grown to already 20,000 followers, and it's just called Electrical Substation.
I'm following that.
Yeah, he says I'm just here doing my job, and everyone is mad at me. And it has just been these. It's like this is a real. I'll try to find a good one here. Like you can see some of these clips every time they show a clip, you see the substation in the background, and it's like, so here's the they're saying, why isn't it an issue in Carolina? Because they apparently also have a substation. Anyways, they're kind of, the 49ers are an older team. They're battling crazy injuries, and but I'm still rooting for them. I still like to see them. Yeah. So they're like, this is obviously not exactly. I mean, it's a real picture with the substation, little AIified.
Yeah, a little. It looks very dystopian.
Yeah. You can see it in the background here, though, at the top. I'm trying to find a better one. Anyways, I will root for the 49ers, but I'm not a diehard fan.
Got you.
It's more of, I rooted for them growing up. If I had to choose a team, I will. But I love the sport so much, and I've enjoyed the experiences at games. So when I lived in Indianapolis, I went to some Colts games. I got to see Peyton Manning throw his 49th touchdown, which at the time was an NFL record. Cool. When I lived in Chicago, I went to some Bears games. When I grew up in middle of Ohio, so I went to some Bengals or Browns games growing up.
Ohio is like the home of football, isn't it? Isn't that where like the league was like? Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was like that's why there are so many Eastern teams that are like surround Ohio, is because that's where. Maybe I'm wrong.
The Hall of Fame is based in Ohio. The Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio.
Okay.
So that checks out, being like the home of football. It's where the game was played last night. They call it the Hall of Fame game. It's played in Canton.
Yeah.
And then the Bengals and Browns are there.
Okay.
Pittsburgh, right across the border. But the teams were bad in the 80s where I grew up. So it's like where the 49ers were the dynasty. Yeah. And I became a Niners fan then, and we'll still root for them, but I also root for, I live in the Tampa area, so I root for the Bucks. And I am a fan of the sport, but I'm really big fan of fantasy sports, not just season long, but daily fantasy sports and best ball. So often my rooting interest isn't, I want this team to win. And this sounds bad, like some purists, some fans, like someone like yourself who's a diehard Newcastle fan, it might make you angry that if I'm watching a Niners Rams game and I want the Niners to win, but if I've got if Puka Nacua, who's the Rams' top wide receiver, if I have him on my best fantasy squad and I could I'm in the running to win $10,000 or $100,000 or $1 million this Sunday, you better believe it. I'm rooting for Puka Nacua to put up a big game.
That's like you'll never find a fan in the UK that is unhappy when Erling Haaland scores a hat trick. Just never, because you know he's in 90% of their
Okay.
fantasy
So
teams.
it's not entirely uncommon for me to be more
No,
of a
I
rooting
to-
interest based on my
no,
fantasy
I
teams
totally
in
get
my
you, and
opinion.
I think a lot of that is because in the States as well. And I'm picking this up. The fantasy side of NFL is as popular as like something to spectate as the game itself.
Yep.
I would say
Yep.
that fantasy football in the UK Premier League, like EPL or EFL, isn't, but is getting there. It's
Okay.
catching up quick. Like there are whole, so like you're familiar with football Twitter. It's starting to kind of like encroach on your timeline. You wait till you start talking about fantasy league, because
Okay.
then you
Even
get
more, huh?
dude, you get a whole nother level of content that's going to come into you. And at the end of every game as well, there's a whole bunch of spaces that get thrown up that you can go in and listen to and join, where people
Fun.
are literally talking about the performance of their fantasy team as opposed to the performance of the team that they support. So like, and it might be actually that you do find a bit more common ground in and amongst that that community, because that is literally just people who are scouring the league for like, where's the gold in these squads, where's the player that's actually only costs 5 million, who is going through this absolute golden run of form, which means I can drop a player that I've spent too much money on and go and add Haaland back into my team because I couldn't afford him for a few weeks or whatever. Like, it's amazing the mess you get yourself into in EFL if you drop players that are expensive because you think you're going to go, and then someone gets injured. Or I had a nightmare last year because of Cole Palmer. He basically had the worst fucking season ever, and I had him in from the get go, and off the back of that, I couldn't I just had a nightmare. I had a really bad season on.
My question is, does he rebound this year?
Yeah, I think so. I'm
Okay.
really looking forward to seeing Palmer.
Because he's one of the players where I'll be doing these EPL best ball drafts, and I'm going back and forth with ChatGPT as I do it, and looking for suggestions and help me with player takes. And he goes in the first round now, but ChatGPT often will recommend me taking him ahead of some other first round picks that go even before him. It's ChatGPT is really bullish on Cole Palmer having a breakout year.
Also really bullish on it because this is the first time he's had a full summer off in about 3 seasons.
Okay.
And he is, regardless of what anyone says, he is an incredible talent. He, like, if any of you saw him in the World Club Cup last year that was held in the United States, when Chelsea beat Paris in the final, and Trump was stood on stage with all of the Chelsea team handing them their trophy, and Cole Palmer was like sneering at him as if to say, "Could you get this fat old idiot off the stage, please?" That was basically his. Yeah, it was quite funny. Cole Palmer tore Paris apart, and Paris had just won comprehensively in the Champions League final. They'd just beaten, I think, Inter Milan in the final, and they took them to task. So like, I think, if I'm looking at my team, I've got Cole Palmer in it at the moment. I haven't revisited. I'm so happy with my team that I haven't revisited it yet, which is most unlike me. I'm usually like, change it, switch things out, but I feel like I've picked a good team. I'm maybe looking at a switch up in midfield a little bit, but apart from that,
I definitely need to revisit mine and make some tweaks before we get started. Also, next week we'll share the, for those that want to join that fantasy league or join our It's Called Football Fantasy League, we will we'll have the invites and get everyone who wants to get in there.
So I think a good thing to do would be to bring up FPL next week, and maybe we can either have a look at yours or my team, or both. Cool. We can both share screen and do that, and talk through a bit of what we're thinking of doing. Also, maybe through that process, a good opportunity to maybe help you pick a team like I just did for NFL. I think that would be a good thing to do. I've got some NFL questions we can fall back on afterwards. Things I want to cover specifically next week, I think, are what do I want to cover, Ben? Think about it. I want to talk a bit more about how the NFL is structured. Because that's always been a bit of a, like, I get all of these fixtures are happening, but who's in which division, which conference, why, what's the route out to find all of that kind of stuff. I'd like to understand that a little bit better. And then maybe also just like a little bit more of what's happening during a game
Mm-hmm.
ahead of it, because I'd quite like to clip that ahead of the new season starting, so that I can talk a bit about like what's happening during the game, what are the key offensive positions or plays, same for defense, that kind of stuff. And then
Makes sense.
for you, yeah, I think bringing up the FPL and choosing our two teams and talking through our two squads that we're picking out, and also sharing our league so that anyone watching can join our league would be quite cool. Because right now we've got like 300 people tuned into this.
Love it.
So
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
If you are new and you just found us, first of all, hey, go check out Predictfully, predictfully.app,
Thank you.
and turn the notifications on. Myself, Ben, if you're on YouTube, go to It's Called Football and hit that like and subscribe button.
Yeah.
We are going to be going live every Tuesday and every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. And we'll be
3:30
3:30
in the
what do you call it
UK.
again? Your
BST, British Summer
BST,
Time.
3:30 BST time.
Yeah.
And on Fridays, we'll be kind of previewing, looking ahead to the upcoming weeks, some player takes, some team takes, help you whether you're playing fantasy or looking for some parlays or prediction markets. We'll help with that. And then on Tuesdays, we'll do a look back and recap the prior week's games on both NFL and primarily Premier League. We may hit on especially like Champions League and other
Champions
stuff,
League,
but
a little bit of Europe as well, I think,
Mhm.
would be quite cool. And in the build up to the beginning of both seasons, I think we'll definitely be doing a bit of fantasy, like how we pick the teams. I've got zero clue how you choose a fantasy team for NFL. Like, I don't even know where to go and do it. So you're going to have to like introduce me to a platform
Okay.
where I'll register and then talk me through the process. And bear in mind, I will know nothing. So like, I feel like I'll be better at this next year. So just like help me through that process of picking that team. And if people want to join in with that, they can do that. And then of course they can also join our league for the Fantasy Premier League, which will be a lot of fun. And then we've said on the 1st of September, we're going to do like maybe a 3 or 4 hour mega space where we're going to cover the Premier League transfer window closing, because I have a feeling that there are going to be quite a few very late transfers. I think we're going into the final 3 weeks here. Newcastle United today announced that they have the budget and they've just had approval to make 3 or 4 more signings before before the end of the window for the new coach.
So let's if you got the time, let's talk a little bit about some of these recent transfers and some of these moves, because that's what I think I said it last time we chatted. It's like not just with Bruno, but a lot of these teams, it's when they lose a player to the transfer market, it's like you got weeks before the season starts, and while they're in most cases they're getting some transfer money from losing those players, they still got to find a way to spend it. And I wonder, like, hey, there's definitely going to be some moves to happen still. I also wonder, does the number go up? Like, are they overpaying for some of these transfers now, almost like reactive because
it gets
they
tough,
have to?
for sure.
Like yesterday, I saw Bradley Barcola got moving from you mentioned Paris, going from PSG to Liverpool, which a big name. I thought he was talented watching play in the World Cup.
He's a great player, but it's a very, very expensive move if it goes
expensive through. And I don't, much better than me, but all of Liverpool's needs, like offense, is probably not at the top of the list.
Actually, so one of the big things is replacing Mohamed Salah, who's just gone to Turkey, and there is a real requirement for them to do that. And Salah, whilst he had a lot of goals, I think the expectation is now that Alexander Isak, who had a bad season last year but signed from Newcastle United for a British record 135 million, he is hopefully for them, not for me, but hopefully for them, going to be the guy that kind of like recovers the goals that Mohamed Salah has lost. But also Salah was incredible with assists, particularly from the right-hand side. And so it was amazing. They had this player who could score 15 to 25 goals a season, but he didn't play number 9. He was literally out wide and cutting in from the right-hand side. And so he had a number of assists that there. He's some player for them to try and replace. It's fucking hell. That's going to be a tough one for them to replace. And I think Barcola absolutely could be the guy to do it, but it is a very, very inflated I haven't seen yet. It hasn't been finalized, right? But they're talking like 140 million pounds, right?
Yeah, I think I saw. I mean, yeah, 100, well over 100. I think I saw like third highest maybe for.
It's wild. I mean, I think the highest is still Neymar, and I think Mbappe too. You've frozen on my screen. Is that you or me? Oh no, you haven't. You were just being so still, Chris.
Yeah, so
that was wild.
Neymar and Mbappe, not knocking Barcola, but yeah, 100, but looking like it, 128 million. He's good, but he's not a Neymar or Mbappe.
No, he's not, and I don't think he will be. But he's incredible talent. I think it's interesting though. Like, who are the players now that are Neymar or Mbappe? You know, probably Mbappe still, and then I think Olise looked like a really exciting talent at Bayern Munich. Be interesting to see if they end up selling him. They are a top team, but there's probably only so long they can resist that kind of money. I'll be interested if he doesn't move before long. And then the lad that has been touted with Real Madrid, Ivorian guy, what's he called? Fucking hell, Ben, this is embarrassing. I should just know that off the top.
With Real,
he's looking to go there. Okay, Ivory Coast. It's gonna be an obvious players. Oh my god! And then I can't type players. Diamande. That's right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Diamande. Yeah. So he's a superstar, but I don't know if he's as good as that. Dembele, maybe the lad that's at Paris, and Doué. Interestingly, so it was that three up front, wasn't it, for France? They're all kind of like superstar material.
Well, we talked about Rodri going to Barcelona, which was a surprise. Thought he was going to go to Real.
Yeah. We haven't spoken about that. That
was
wild. No. I thought the Rodri deal to Real Madrid was done.
Like it does. I mean, from what I was seeing, it seemed like it was a done deal. And
yeah, I was staggered to see that yesterday.
Yeah, pretty. I was surprised, especially not just that it didn't just go to Real. It went to the La Liga rivals, right? Like a big move there. And then on the heels of that, hearing rumors this morning or seeing rumors now that Man City looking to replace Rodri with Enzo, who might be a good player, but kind of you think about leadership and you going from someone like Rodri, who's I think respected by seemingly all, to someone like Enzo, who's
respected by nobody.
I was a little bit of a head case, like not well liked. I don't know the best way to to put it, but a downgrade nevertheless, and one that they're also going to pay for. So,
dude, a phenomenal talent though. I'll say that. Like, if Enzo was less of a hooligan, he would be.
Yeah, not just head case, but his style of play, I don't think is well liked, right? Kind of a dirtier player.
Yeah, but people have those kind of players have been around forever. Like, there have been players that are stylistically dirty. It's weird because they go for a period of time with everyone being like, oh, they're dirty, they're horrible. And then by the end of their career, everyone's like, credit to them. Like, they just bash through everything. There are players now, like in folklore, like Leeds United had a guy called Billy Bremner who just basically kicked everyone off the field in the 1970s. And people like look back on that era of football and players like that. I don't know why I'm pointing behind me, but I am. But really fondly, like, oh, good old Billy Bremner kicked everyone. People would refer, if you were a tough player on the field, they'd be like, who does he think he is, Billy Bremner? Like, it's interesting, isn't it? But while he was playing, everyone was like, oh my god, that guy's a hooligan. So it's interesting. I think with Enzo, it's just he's just a horrific human from an English perspective, but he's a proud Argentinian, and so who am I to say that that's wrong? Like I'm surprised that City are looking at him because he's just horrid. But
my friend Joe, who texts me about this, he says, Enzo plays a different position in the midfield. he goes, I'm quoting, he goes, "Is a pissed off scorpion trying to banter and sting everything."
Dude, it's exactly what he's like. Yeah.
Said so City would go from Bernardo Silva and Rodri to Enzo and Anderson. It's like this would be like going from peak Kobe and Shaq to Baron Davis and Eldon Campbell for you NBA fans out there. That's the analogy.
Well, I don't know the
downgrade.
analogy too much, but I get what he's saying. Like, because Bernardo Silva was a dream to watch play football. I also think, by the way, while we're talking about this, Barcelona with Rodri and his ability to find passes and players like Anthony Gordon up front, that is enough to make you salivate as a
Yeah.
fan. Yeah, they will be really, really excited to watch that next year.
I got my my Barcelona fix watching the Spain team play in the World Cup, and man, that they pass the ball and move it like on a level of their own. Like it's just so crisp and
Yeah,
just
it's a
seemingly everyone knows where their teammates are going to be, and
it's a cultural thing. That
Mhm.
is, they are just so good at that, and it was something that started about 15, 20 years ago, like at the beginning of when Messi came in. A guy called Frank Rijkaard, who was one of the three tulips. So if you know about great teams that have been put together in European football, then you would always know about the team in 1990 that played for AC Milan. And it was just the most complete, incredible team. And it had Baresi, who just passed away, by the way, at like 66 years old, not very old at all. Baresi was their centre half, probably considered the greatest central defender of all time. It had a young Paolo Maldini. Players were coming through there like Costa Curta, who was an incredible defender. But they had these three boys in midfield, the three tulips they were referred to, which was Frank Rijkaard, Ruud Gullit, and Marco van Basten. And those three Dutch players were the engine and just the greatest. And then Frank Rijkaard, he kind of took that through. He took that style of play that the three of those had through his managerial career.
Okay.
And he at Barcelona was the guy that handed the team over to Pep Guardiola. So Pep is an exceptional talent and an amazing manager, and no one will take that away from him. But he inherited a style of play and like 4 or 5 players like Busquets and Iniesta and an emerging Leo Messi, and Carlos Puyol in defense, like just some really, really incredible players that were playing this kind of like, sometimes it's called tiki-taka, which is just like, I'll pass to you and I'm on and you know where I am, and we never lose the ball, and that's how we win. And he started that, Rijkaard did, and that style of play is now like entrenched in Spain, in the young people of Spain, and particularly in like the Basque Catalan region of Barcelona and Espanyol, and then up to Bilbao. Like that is revered, that kind of football, and it is it's amazing to see when you see, particularly when you see young kids playing it well, you just can't help but sit back and smile and think, fuck, this is so good to watch. And I felt like that watching Spain all through the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And it was what made that game against Cape Verde even more incredible, because they played it the whole game and they just couldn't break through, this resilient African nation that nobody expected to do anything. It was such a cool game, that was. But yeah, you're right. Spanish football is something else. And I think Rodri going into that kind of environment will, even though he's in the swan song of his career, you still expect that he will be able to perform greatness there. And
I wonder if that was, I mean, obviously Rodri knows this as well as anyone, but I wonder if that played a role in his decision to go Barcelona over Real, because even though they have the superstars, Mbappe, Bellingham, and many more, like he obviously gelled well with that national team and have more of them play. I don't
maybe he's thinking that there were no Spanish team, there were no Real Madrid players on the national team. They've now acquired fucking hell, what's the guy called, the great left back?
Oh, the big hair, Cucurella.
Yeah. So they just signed him from Chelsea, but that was going into the World Cup, but he hadn't been with them before then. But yeah, Rodri's probably looked at that Barcelona team and thought, like, 6 of my teammates here, and we just won the World Cup together. Also, Barcelona haven't won the Champions League in a little while. I don't know when they last won the Champions League. I'll do a quick Google. But maybe he's thinking that would be quite a cool thing to go back to.
Well, and to Mike, I like, as I'm learning, I really appreciate
2015.
Last time Barcelona won a Champions League. Yeah. I really appreciate their academy approach. Their it's homegrown talent. It's not just
oh, dude, that's it.
You know,
you're absolutely right, and it's the same. That's apparent for Manchester United, Liverpool, Barcelona, Ajax, which is the team from Amsterdam. They're four clubs where you would be like it's been an age. Maybe it's never even happened where there hasn't been like at least one homegrown player in the squad for a match day. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's rare now in football because of like transfers and the business of football. Like, it hasn't been as prominent. Whereas, like, I'm pretty certain Manchester United haven't played a game in Premier League era without having at least one person who's come through their academy at least being on the bench.
Wow.
And that's incredible. Like, and I know that, I mean, Liverpool, the pedigree of football, young footballers that goes through Liverpool's ranks is insane. It's becoming apparent like that now at Arsenal. Manchester City have got an incredible academy. They're all starting with all of these rules around finances now in football. People are realizing, fuck, we need to invest a lot of money in the academy.
So are you able to touch on that briefly? Mike brought up a good point where he says, I heard one of the knocks for MLS is that they tend not to use transfer fees for their academy systems while EPL does. And EPL, La Liga, it's with Barcelona, it's not just Lamine Yamal, it's Paul Kubarsi, the guy who won the young player in the World Cup award.
Yeah, the defender. Yeah.
Just such and it's not just those two. They have incredible homegrown talent. Probably some of which we haven't even seen yet. I saw some clips of like 8 and 10-year-olds just looking like wizards on the pitch, coming up with that Barcelona system. But yeah, what it's not just that they have these academies, but like the transfer fees are.
Yeah,
we'll go back to the academy where that they were raised. Can you expand that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I don't know those rules too well actually, so I'm not going to bastardize it and get it all wrong. But you're absolutely right. One of the big things in football in the UK is that if a young player goes through an academy, there's two things. One is that if a young player goes all the way through academy and then gets sold, 100% of that value is realized as like revenue generation, which is why Newcastle United sold Elliot Anderson.
Interesting.
So he'd played one season where he broke into our team. We had like an injury. He managed to get a few games in central midfield. Every Newcastle fan was like, "Well, this kid's all right. Fucking hell!" Like, and he's one of our own. He's a Whitley Bay boy, and which is an area in Newcastle that on the coast. And then he had an injury. He hurt. I can't remember what he did, but he was injured for like 4 or 5 months. And then that summer, we had an offer in for 40 million. We needed to realize money so that we could go and spend money. And we spent that money quite wisely. Like, you know, we bought in top players, which we've now been able to go on and sell for all these huge fees. But everyone looks now back at that and says, how sad that like the way to realize money was to look at the academy and get rid of the talent who now has just gone and signed for Manchester City for 113 million. Like, you just think, fuck, if we could have just held on to him for a bit longer. But there you go. So that's one thing. But also, in the kind of like the build up to a young player like signing as a full-time professional adult, when they're at academy stage, other clubs can go in and like pilfer your academy, but they have to pay top dollar, and they have to pay. And I don't think they just have to pay at the time of purchase. I think they actually then go on to pay. I think it might be like a percentage of the deal when the player first. So not in Elliot Anderson's circumstances, because he'd already signed a professional contract with Newcastle United as an adult. But if someone had signed Elliot Anderson from us when he was 15, and then he goes on to have one of these massive moves, as the academy that kind of brought him through, we realize some of that value. And for some clubs, there's a club in the UK, they do it less so now, but God, when I was growing up, Crewe Alexandra, which is in Cheshire, which is not far from Liverpool, Manchester, and all of that kind of area, they had an academy, Crew Alexandra, that bred some incredible talent for over like a 30-year period. And every time it happened, they would lose the player to Liverpool, Manchester United, Leeds, one of the Sheffield team, whatever. Like the players, because Crew were never able to break into the Premier League. But they had all of these young guns that came through every year for a long period of time. And actually, all the money that they got from that went back into development of the stadium, went for development of the infrastructure, development of the academy itself. And they made a lot out of that. If it had been modern era, I shudder to think how much they would have made. Like a team that has an academy like Crew had then, having that now and that pool of players coming through would definitely make it into the Premier League because their finances would afford them the ability to do that. It's just it's a sad fact that at the time when that was the case, like this setup that we're talking about now wasn't in place. So they just lost these kids to like a £150,000 transfer fee because everyone could see that they were going to be good, and that was the way it worked. Whereas nowadays it would be like they'd get a decent transfer and they would get a percentage of the first fee, and it would have fed that team considerably more than they were fed in the 90s and noughties.
And incentivize the parent, in this case, Major League Soccer, to actually
invest in
absolutely invest in these academies, actually help develop these young players, not like versus I again, not to get on some rant about youth sports in the US and how broken but yeah, it's like it really is seems like backwards incentives today, whereas what you just described there, it's like it's obviously working, and it aligns incentives. It aligns incentives at every level versus the top league just looking at it as like, oh, it's just another revenue center for us.
There's two things. One, and we're gonna have to stop in 10 minutes because I have to go and get dinner and stuff. But the two things are, one, Newcastle United just signed a young 16-year-old, I think, from Ipswich. Now, Ipswich have just been in the Premier League, or maybe I can't remember if they're going to be in the Premier League this year or if they've just been in. I can't remember. I'm still figuring it out. But he looks like a top talent, and we will have gone in and paid some good money for him. And then when he ends up being sold on somewhere, Ipswich will realise some of that value, which is great. He looks like a really exciting young player. He's like, no, he's not 16, he's 14 years old. He looks like an absolute beast of a player already, and he's 14 years old, which is incredible, right? And so, yeah, like Ipswich they're not an established Premier League team. They don't have like an endless pot of gold, and that will go on to benefit them in the future. And if they could they had 3 or 4 or 5 that were coming through in that vein, maybe you can let one of them escape into your actual team and have a go at bringing them up, but also you get all of that revenue that falls in behind it. The second thing was Alexi Lalas, who is an ex-professional football player, American guy, wild ginger hair. He played in the 94 World Cup, played for Coventry City, that cool badge I showed you earlier, in the 90s. Lalas and who was the other American kid that played for Coventry? Fuck, I'll remember it in a minute. Kobe Jones. So there were two American boys, Alexi Lalas and Kobe Jones, played for Coventry. But I saw Lalas the other day, who's obviously he must have some kind of like ambassadorial role in American soccer somewhere along the line, because he was talking about on X. He was saying like there's a really big opportunity for youth soccer in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge commercial opportunity as much as it is a great opportunity to develop the league and the quality of the standard of the game in the States. But he said, but ultimately someone's got to pay for it. Who's paying for all these young kids to play football? And that's a really interesting thing, because I tell you what, in the UK, it doesn't matter. Football is not discriminatory in the UK. If you are a young, talented kid who lives on a area of serious social deprivation, council estate, surrounded by people who have not, had a great education, don't have great careers, whatever. But if you stand out in those areas, you you will be able to play football for your school, for the local team, for the girls and boys club, for the youth club, for the local whatever it is. And like, you know, the subs are the amount you have to pay is low. And actually, if you're that good and they recognize the talent, you won't have to pay. Like, you'll get in, you'll get discovered through school, you'll get discovered through whatever. And you can, and like, I think Lalas is looking into that a little bit too much and like assuming that it's going to have to be super, super expensive for kids to play football before you pluck the ones out that are good. And the truth is, it's just not the case. Like, kids can play fucking football in as long as there's grass and, you know, 4 things that you can put down that imitate posts, like, you're away. Like, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about football is that it is, you know, a ball and some grass, and you can play great football and you can be spotted.
It should be that way here. And I think that's arguably the biggest issue with the sport in the US is it's not. It's very. Now, could any kid go play and play for their school team? Yeah. But
does that matter?
The club sports, they put so much emphasis into, you know, travel, you know, club competitive football.
Yeah.
And it's expensive. Like, it's the to the point where it starts at such a young age that the kids who don't do it, they're at such a disadvantage by the time they get to, say, high school age.
Yeah.
That the kids who have been playing, you know, been getting the best development and been getting the best coaching, they've been playing club football for years at that point, and it's absurdly expensive. Just to, like, you're talking probably on a decent sized city or market, it's like 10 grand plus a year for a kid to even play at a younger level.
That's
and
wild.
The reality is, like, yeah, there's a lot of talented young kids. They're just excluded from that. Like, their parents aren't going to drop 10K a year for them to play. Now, it's not just 10K in club fees, but when you factor in
travel,
you know, they'll play anywhere from 1 to 10 travel tournaments, and you got flights and hotels and yeah, it's very,
maybe that's one of the benefits of the UK is the fact that our little island means you can, you know, if you split it into like 4 or 6, probably the way you would do when you get to a decent standard of youth football. You don't have to travel the breadth and width of the country. You could probably get everywhere in a few hours. My friend, his son plays for Gloucester, which is a town, not a city. I'm just trying to get that right. Gloucester Town, which is near Cheltenham, and he's in the youth area there. And his team is kind of like in the same leagues as Birmingham and Aston Villa, so they play like Midlands level. And he, you know, my mate travels a fair bit. His son's a very good player, actually. He travels a fair bit, but it's like 2 hours there, play the game, 2 hours back. Maybe sometimes they do it in a minibus as kids, and the parents will go and watch if they want to, and that's it. Like, there's absolutely zero requirement. And maybe if they get through, then there's a tournament somewhere where everyone goes and stays in hotels, but that's once a season max. Like, so, you know. And the way he got discovered is he was playing great football at school, and the PE teacher at school recognized that he was decent and said, why don't you go and trial for the local team over here? They said, oh yeah, he's really good. Why don't you go and trial over here? And that's it. And all he's ever had to do is buy boots and shin pads. Like, literally, that's it. So I think maybe the fact that geographically the UK is such a small place comparatively makes it an easier thing to do. But you would think the population of the United States, like, you could run similar setups state by state, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't, like, yes, the US country is larger geographic footprint than the UK.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, it doesn't have, like, my younger daughter played club volleyball before she got into lacrosse, and it's like, her last year at club volleyball, I think we played a tournament in Salt Lake City, one in Philadelphia, one in Chicago, and it's like, that's just unnecessary. It's just like you don't, like, a lot of the same teams they could have played in Orlando, they could have played in Florida. Like, it's just, a lot of it is become such a for-profit enterprise. It's become overly commercialized, and these clubs really do view it as, how can we maximize our revenue as a club, not how can we develop the most players.
Exactly that.
And the best players. How can we develop the best players? It's like, how can we have multiple teams that each kid's paying, you know, 3, 4, 5 grand a year, even if they shouldn't be playing club at this age, right? It's like, it's not the, you know, especially the B and C team. It's not the the 20th best players in the city. It's whose parents were willing to pay, spend 10 grand this year on a player who, for all intents and purposes, should just be playing rec soccer. Anyways, sorry for the long-winded rant. I know you got to get out of here soon.
Yeah, but it's really good. And actually, some of the best football players in the United Kingdom come out of setups where they've literally gone out to like the estates and found these kids who've shown promise. Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, some of these players that are absolutely incredible, just played a lot of football in their personal time in the streets or the parks or the recreational grounds or on the estate or whatever, and ended up being plucked out, and now look at them, incredible. And football doesn't need billions and billions of dollars like Alexi Lalas was kind of suggesting. It just needs organization and infrastructure and people who give a shit.
And it's not like I see, like I'm not mistaken, I think Mike's kids play hockey like at a very competitive level. One played in college, which hockey's expensive. Like not just the ice time, but it's expensive gear.
Yeah, the kit, man. And that's football, what I was thinking that for NFL, like the pads and the helmets and
it's expensive. With football, with soccer, it's a ball. It's a kit and some cleats. It's a ball and cleats and some shin guards. Like it doesn't have to be as expensive as they made it. And while I'm
sorry to laugh, but ball and cleats and shin guards is the coolest thing.
Boots. Are they called shin guards or you call them something different?
Shin pads.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool. But it was great. I was not teasing you at all. It was just great to hear someone say it like that.
I've done well on kits. I don't think I've called them jerseys once on this stream.
I've started calling them jerseys, and a Newcastle fan had a go at me the other day because I said the away jersey is amazing. He was like, "What the fuck's a jersey?" You got me. I've been hanging around with Americans too much.
It's my fault. I know we were talking kits earlier, and I meant to show this and I forgot. So before you get out of here, did you see this? Speaking of kits, did you see this one? A Peruvian club?
That's interesting.
They just gotten relegated, and so they were in a bad spot financially, and they needed to come up with some ways to raise some funds. And so instead of going the traditional sponsorship route, they sold local sponsorships for roughly $60 each after getting relegated.
Has that got loads of? Oh, that is so good.
The end result was 1,000 sponsors. They put 1,000 sponsors on the kit at $60 a piece, and it became a huge successful, most sponsorship money they've ever made off of a kit by doing it this way.
That's actually really cool.
I don't think it looks bad. Like I think it looks. I mean, now are the sponsors getting as much visibility as like one main front of kit sponsor?
You can talk about it. You can talk about
exactly. It's from a social awareness and a.
And for your town and whatever,
exactly,
your city, whatever. I think that's amazing.
So I thought it was kind of clever. And then the last thing to share, because you sent this over, we were talking about Mo Salah earlier and how wild Turkey is.
I said to you, right? Turkish fans are built different.
Built different. You aren't kidding. This is like you got to go watch the whole video. Like it's like. Man, there's like fires in the stadium, like just crazy crowds. And this isn't even a match. This is just his introduction.
Just announcing a player. That's it. Like
incredible.
He will have the season of his life. Not in terms of like, accolades
goals and assists,
but in terms of like adoration and just people being insane. If he can go on a decent run and they get like a good run in Europe and he scores some goals and he can keep fit, that will be wild for him this season. Turkish football is awesome. It is awesome because their fans are so passionate.
Yeah, you said this. I was like, man, why would he go to Turkey? It seems like a surprise. Like I get it now.
Oh man,
I get it now.
Crazy people. Yeah, they love it. It's always good to go on vacation, holiday for those in the UK that think I'm a maniac, in Turkey, because as soon as you get there and you speak to the locals, first thing I want to know is who do you support? And yeah, it's good.
I know you got to run. Sorry for keeping you long once again.
No, not
we will be back Tuesday at 10:30. Tuesday 10:30 Eastern. Friday 10:30 Eastern. We'll be getting close to our actual regular cadence and regular agenda. Still some fun stuff like picking teams, and whatnot. We'll talk fantasy next week.
Go Bills!
Go Bills! We'll have Ben in a Josh Allen jersey.
I'm definitely going to do it. I'm definitely going to have a look. I think they're quite expensive though, the jerseys, NFL jerseys, but I'm going to have a look. Got to do it, right?
Bills also, speaking of alternate kits and alternate jerseys,
Tell me they've got one in black and white. No, they
I-
won't, will they? Because the referees are have black and white jerseys, don't they?
their alternate kit is one of the more unique kit jerseys I've seen in a minute. Very big deviation from their standard jerseys. This is what they're calling them their
Oh yeah, gray and blue.
yeah, they're calling it their nickel kit, I think. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
Nickel
mind
City
that.
is what they're calling it. But and
mind
they
that
they
at
got a
all.
blue color to lean into the blue collar city. Yeah, they very very unique in terms of alternate jerseys.
I love
But
it.
yeah, I just saw
there
the
you
time.
go. I'm hooked. I'm a Bills fan.
Awesome. Love to hear it. I think you'll be pleased. I think you'll be entertained for sure. They may not win the
Well,
Super Bowl, but they'll be in the running at least until the playoffs, until their final game. Every game should be exciting this year.
That is all I'll ever ask for, is that they entertain. As a Newcastle United fan, if there are Newcastle fans listening, they will all relate to that. I don't care if you win every game, but you turn up, you try hard, and you entertain. That's it.
And maybe breaking news to send everyone out of here with Balogun, the guy who starred on the U.S. men's national team this year. Apparently, he was just offered to Tottenham.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
He scored some good goals. He's a good player.
So that could be an interesting one on the move still here before the season kicks off. But enjoy your weekend. Pleasure as always.
Yes.
Really enjoyed the chat today.
Have fun.
Looking forward to getting into it even deeper next week. We'll get our fantasy leagues kicked off, and yeah, do join us, audience. 350 of you here on as we getting this thing warmed up. We started
Awesome,
late,
right?
Haven't figured out our times perfectly yet. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you
great
to everyone.
start.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, Cap. I'll see you on Tuesday.
Have a great one, everyone. Enjoy your weekends. We'll see you
Bye.
soon.